Okay, so I'm joined by Lacey Lynn, Jill Colton, and maybe later Roslyn Ross. Just depends on her newborn baby's timing. But we are doing this video chat because we want to be helpful to our male audiences, our single male audiences. We are all married women with children. We're all right-leaning, and obviously we got the mate that we were looking for. So I figured it would be helpful to let our male audience know what we were looking for, specifically what we were not looking for, because it's actually easier to stop behaviors than to start behaviors. If you can eliminate some of the character traits that the woman of your dreams may find repulsive, then you are more likely to get married and have children with a wonderful person. It's always, the work starts with you. So this isn't about being mean or rude, but it's just from life experience and the things we really did not like when we were dating or when we were just around men that we would have never married. All right, so I think that I will start. Let me look at the chat real quick. Yeah, I think the audio is good, so I'll just jump into it. Okay, so I will go through my 3 things, and then we will move on to the next person. They will go through their 3 things, and so on and so on. And then at the end, we can have a discussion and see which overlap. I think that would be really funny if we all had the same 3 things. Not as helpful as different things, but So my first issue with men and generally when I was single was indecisiveness. Now, to caveat this, I don't mean, you also don't want a rash, not thoughtful person who just makes wild decisions. What I'm talking about is very basic things like taking you out on a date and being like, where would you like to go? I don't know. What do you want to do? That is, first of all, that is a feminine quality typically. And when a man does that, it's just totally infuriating. When you hang out with women in a group of women, they're usually very considerate and they do that. They're like, oh, where do you want to go? Well, I don't know. I kind of like sushi, but I kind of like Mexican, but I can't decide, but you decide. And it's a way for women to get along and not step on any toes. It's like an evolutionary character trait so that you're not ostracized from your group. That helps you with your kids. Men can't do that. You can't be like, oh, I don't know if I want to shoot that deer or if I want to chase it a little longer. You will starve and die. You can't. So men who develop an indecisive character trait, to me, automatically, you're femme. I don't want to be I don't want you as a husband. You're not going to be a great man to lead the household. So that's what that signals to me. I can elaborate on that later, but that's basically it. And when you're married to a man who's indecisive, you need a man sometimes you need to make a big life decision. And if you dilly-dally, for weeks on it, then things can actually be very bad for your family. You have to have a man who can make a decision, and hopefully thoughtfully. All right, my second thing that I despise in people generally, but especially men, is someone who can't stand up for you. I'm not talking about white knighting and someone gets into an argument with you and you have to defend your girl's opinion. No. I'm talking about if someone attacks your girlfriend's character, or there's someone's being unjust to her publicly, or there's even a physical altercation, and you can't stand up for her, you're failing yourself, first of all, because you picked her, you are a unit, and you're not standing up for your woman. What? That we had an incident in our family where my in-laws were out in Vegas it was a wedding or something. There was a bunch of young people, a bunch of millennials, cousins, extended family. And my husband's mom, she's 60, she's in her mid-60s. She gets attacked by a thug, to take her purse in front of all these young men. And the only person who rushes to her side is her husband, who is much older. He's getting close to 80. and he's not the strongest person anymore, and he's not that big. He's a tall guy, but he's not like a huge man. And he immediately rushes to her side and like helps her, and like the guy runs off, but like the husband was there, and all these young dudes are just like standing there aghast. And I'm like, oh my God, how can people not stand up for their family and their loved ones? Like, that's crazy. So obviously he did. So like, yes, that's what you want to do, man. If something happens like that, like, you got to be ready. So yeah, if you can't stand up for your, potential mate, your future wife, your girlfriend, like, you are failing yourself, first of all. And that is the most unattractive thing ever. Like, if I was a woman and something especially that extreme happened to me and you did not rush to my side, I would never speak to you again. That is a huge, huge red flag for me. Okay. Third. Okay, this is a softer one. I feel like most men go through this with their girlfriend, and their girlfriend either snuffs it out or encourages it. For me, a guy wanting you to treat him like you're his son, like a guy wanting you to be his mom, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awful. And every single friend I've had in a long-term relationship has like had this gray area where it like starts to happen, and it obviously is more likely to start to happen if you like cohabit, if you live together first. And I've had girls like call me, be like, he's doing this thing and it's like really unattractive, and how do I tell him? I'm like, just tell him, because he'll keep doing it. Just tell him and he can change. Like, that's a thing you can actually change. So it's just gross. I understand being nurturing and like cooking for your husband and blah, blah, blah. It depends on your dynamic, who's working, who's not working. But like, when he wants to be mothered by you all the time, and I've seen this in relationships, and it's like, what is going on? It's so gross. To me, that's a huge turn off. Okay, so those are my 3 things. Let's have Jill go first, just because that's the order of my Twitter listing. If you guys want to check out in the information below. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing I would say I was looking for in a mate, it's not sexy, but it's financial responsibility. And I don't mean that you have to be, you have to have a lot of money, but you have to be smart with your finances, because as much as we don't like to talk about money, it is absolutely critical to our lives and super crucial to relationships. So I had dated a guy before. He was so irresponsible with his money that he had so much debt. He had racked up debt on stupid things that he used to get calls from collection agencies, and he also used to get bills, and he would throw them under his bed. That's how he dealt with financial problems. And I would be like, we can make a budget for you. We can do this. You can pay off this debt. It's not a big deal. And, he didn't want to. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I'm going to make a life with somebody, you better understand money and you better be responsible financially. Because if you have children and you're bad with money, it is definitely a problem. You cannot spend money on yourself when you have kids. Kids come first. And if you don't even know how to look after yourself financially, how are you going to look after children? So that was my number one, believe it or not. And it was because I had dated some guys, not very many, but a few, that were horrible with money. And I thought to myself, okay, you really are setting yourself up for a lifetime of ruin if you can't figure this out. So that was my number one. It ain't sexy, but if you're looking for a mate, you're talking about stuff that, are lifetime skills that you need. The second thing.
Roslyn Ross, the one that might join us, she says, look at their credit score when you're dating.
Yes. I'm not saying you have to be rich. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you need to pay your bills. You need to understand the flow of money. You need to be interested in money. It's so important. The other thing is I was looking for a guy that was capable, especially around the house in terms of being a handy guy, because I'm not that capable. I can cook, I can clean, I can do those sorts of things, but I can't really hang a picture. I can't lay a floor. I'm short. I'm only 5'2", and I don't weigh a lot. So I don't really have the capabilities of being able to do a lot of stuff around the house. I can, again, do feminine things like gardening and things like that. But my husband can build a house. Like, that is so sexy. I'm so proud of the fact that I had the foresight to marry a man that is handy. So many men nowadays can't do anything. It's so sad. And it really, I think it just is a generational thing, but not being able to hang a picture or, change a tire, or, even like, I know maybe I'm asking too much, but like, my husband can literally build a deck. He can put in a floor. He just renovated 2 of our washrooms. I mean, this guy can do things. He is useful. And it's like, I think every day I'm like, I'm so lucky that I married a handyman. And I think the third thing that I was looking for is a guy who takes charge. So I think that might be probably what you were talking about as well, Julia, is the fact that, you want a guy who's capable, who takes charge of the situation. I think it's a masculine trait, and it's really sexy when a guy, you're kind of flailing as a woman. You're like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. And then your man like steps in there and makes the decision. And you're like, wow, that was kind of hot. Luckily, I have an intelligent man that can, I can rely on, and that is not just trustworthy with these sorts of decisions, but he is stepping up to the plate and he's willing to make these big decisions for a family. So those are my 3 things.
Yeah, that's so we definitely overlapped on. So we don't want indecisiveness. And then your other ones were, you don't want someone who can't hang a picture. Totally agree. There's nothing better than a man who comes home drenched in sweat after building a shed. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
And, money smart, financially smart.
Yeah.
So that's great. Let's see if we overlap with Lacey. Go ahead.
I think we will, just a little bit. I had a hard time figuring out what I didn't want in a mate, because I actually didn't do the dating scene. Before I met my husband, I went to a football game and a dance, but that was pretty much it. I got kind of traditionally courted. So it was more about finding, because we got married young and we met when I was younger. It was more about finding each other and what our relationship was as we grew together. So there were, of course, things about me that needed to change, and there were things about him that needed to change in our relationship together. Are we going to introduce the guest, or should I keep talking?
Let's just see if her microphone's working and stuff. Roslyn, hello?
I am there.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to let Lacey finish.
Yeah, please.
And then we'll move on to you 4th. So good timing. And she's just doing a little intro, and she'll be going over her 3 things that she does not want in a mate. Then we'll recap, and then you'll finish us off, okay?
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
So I basically took the things that I love about my husband and turned them into the opposite. So what I wouldn't want in a mate is somebody who's superficial. And I'm a very deep thinker. My husband's a very deep thinker. We started bonding over things like politics and philosophy and just these really deep subjects that I find really attractive when a man is intelligent. And not only can he hold a conversation, but he can lead the conversation and teach me a few things. There's so many things that I've learned from my husband. And he's definitely been somebody in my life, probably the most important person in my life, who has really challenged me intellectually and educated me, and I really appreciate that, and that's really attractive. So anything that's superficial, it's fun. It's good to have fun, and it's good to go out and watch the mainstream movie or whatever. I'm not that uppity, but if the interest of the man and his whole life revolves around something that's really superficial, it's kind of a turnoff for me. And then what kind of cross applies to indecisiveness is lack of ambition. So I really want a man who is not just decisive in the day-to-day, but who has a goal for his life, a dream for his family, even before he has that family. I find it really attractive for a man to think about his eventual family and kind of, where are we going to be in 10 years? What is our family life going to look like? What is the plan? You know, what do you want out of life? What is your dreams, your goals, not only for yourself, but for your wife, for your family? Where are we going? Where are you leading us to? I really find that very attractive in a man when he has ambition. So anybody who lacks ambition and doesn't really think about the future, that is a huge turnoff, and I wouldn't be with somebody like that. And then the third one is kind of cliche, but I was thinking soy boy, you know? So it kind of overlaps a little bit. Yes, I want a man who can do things with his hands and build things and fix things, because in my household, we are very much down the middle, you know, gender roles. So I'm all female and do the cooking, the cleaning, and organizing and making the house look nice and taking care of the children, and very nurturing. And he's, you know, he understands money. He understands how a car. He understands, you know, fixing things. And so I really appreciate that. And our different gender roles, because they're so split right down the middle, when we come together, everything is taken care of. Everything's, you know, at the end of the day, everything has its place, and everything gets taken care of. So nothing is left out, and I really appreciate that. I mean, if God forbid, if I was in a situation where I had to, you know, build something like what you were talking about, you know, a deck or laying a floor or something, that would be something at the end of the day. Well, you know, that's not getting taken care of if I was with somebody who couldn't do that. So I don't know, there's something really beautiful about those two gender roles coming together and making it whole. So I really appreciate that. That is it.
Thank you. So let me recap for Roslyn. So my three things were: I don't want indecisiveness. I don't want a guy who can't stand up for you, because that's failing yourself as well. And then I don't want a guy who treats me like his mom. And then Jill said she wants a guy who is money smart. And ours overlapped. She also wants someone who can, you know, take the lead and make decisions. And what was your third?
Handy.
Handy, yes, totally. We'll probably talk about this more after.
Not handsy, handy.
Handy. Someone in the chat just asked, like, well, what if he has money? Like, can you just hire someone? Sure. But for me personally, like, we do have some money, and he's building stuff all day outside. And that's so, first of all, it becomes your thing, your project.
Yeah.
It shows that he cares. It shows that he's capable. And it's just so masculine. It's just so traditionally masculine. And I can't help. I'm just wired this way. I love it.
Well, and also financially, if you're smart, this is how my husband would speak to me. He would be like, well, Jill, I'm not going to pay somebody to do the work that I can do for us.
So that's double. You're hitting two targets there.
So I love you.
Okay, Roslyn. I'm going to give you a quick intro. Roslyn Ross is an amazing person. She wrote the Theory of Objectivist Parenting. She has counseled people in the past on marriages and parenting and relationships. She's kind of taking a back seat lately because she's focusing on what she's preaching, and that is her children. But I've managed to, you know, convince her to come jump on with us here. So let's give her the stage here.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
I'm keeping my computer with me, running around, getting the baby up, getting my son ready for camp, making breakfast, packing lunch, and listening and enjoying it. But I'll try to be quick, and then I'll put the camera back off so that you don't have to and a mic so that I can listen, but you don't have to listen. Very quickly, and sorry for being in my pajamas. It's 2 hours earlier over here. It's only 7:30. My three things, my three deal breakers would be, and this is funny too. Actually, I thought of doing three what would have been deal breakers had I known at the time. But unfortunately, you commit to these guys and then you're stuck with things that you would have not been cool with. Like my husband is kind of a flat earther, and no, he calls it a global skeptic. I'm not a flat earther. And that might have been a deal breaker. I'm not sure, but he wasn't one when I met him. Anyway, let's see. When I would say the first one is drugs. I'm really into being present and being able to handle your pain, the pain of life, the pain of existence. There were so many guys in college and stuff that just tapped out into video games and into yeah, we don't know if this is going to work yet. My 7-year-old is watching my 4-month-old, and we're going to see how this works out. So first, drugs. Not into video games, not into excessive TV watching, not into disappearing into sports, not into, it doesn't matter what your drug is. There's lots of different ways to disappear into drugs, and I'm not into any of them. I want someone who's present and able to communicate about pain rather than like, I'm just gonna have a beer and forget about it. And then my other one was, there's a great Amish parenting book I read once about how they get married don't find a mate based around consumption dreams, find a mate based around production dreams. And that a lot of couples that they see in the English culture get together based on what they want to consume together. They want to consume a vacation. They want to consume the certain standard of living. They want to consume all these things. And I want to produce things with my husband. I want to, specifically a family. I want to produce children. And so that's the other thing the other deal breaker is somebody who is consumption based rather than production based for me. And then I think you guys already said my last deal breaker, which is just someone who's future oriented. I like long-term planning, and I like really long-term planning. I like thinking of 100 years and the choices that we make right now and how it will affect not just our children, but our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And I like to look at patterns in the family tree and see how important creating a family culture is that can last for a long time.
Someone with a vision.
Yeah. I like vision. And yes, not just someone with a vision, but someone inspired, someone who's capable, has the self-control, is capable of living up to their vision. Because there's people who have vision, but then they can't live it. I want to live the vision. I want to, whatever we decide, I want to jump in and live it.
So I'll pretend to be Philosophy Cat here because she couldn't join us, and she'll be like, well, the man needs his Aphrodite to bring his vision up from the clouds and make it oriented towards action. And I think you'll agree with that, Roslyn, like that the woman is there to definitely help and encourage all of these qualities, I would say. Because, okay, so we're getting some questions in the chat that are really good. And like, one is like, how does a woman signal that she wants these things? And so I want to clarify something to the guys here, because this is like a lot. This is like a lot of expectations. And most women don't deserve any of this unless they have the qualities that, like the amazing man is looking for as well.
Agreed.
So don't take this as an expectation from like every single woman that should be met. So this is where the question of the signaling it comes into play, because listen, a lot of women who don't know what they want will never signal for this, will actually run away when these character traits are being shown by the man, because it's intimidating and they know that they can't handle being with a guy like that. They know they have nothing to offer. There are, of course, as Roslyn would say, the princesses who they're usually like 10 out of 10 in terms of physique, and they're young and they want to be treated by these amazing men like a princess. But long term, they're not going to add too much to a man's life. So for men who do possess these qualities, keep in mind, like, you have to have your own list of qualities that you're looking for, and don't settle for just like good looks, because you want that Aphrodite. You want the woman who encourages the best out of you, because at the end of the day, no matter who you marry, it's not like this, okay? It goes up and down. Men get depressed, men get disillusioned, men lose their passion, and you need a woman who knows your character and knows how to help you bounce back.
I also want to say that when I met my husband, I did not feel that I was at a place where I matched him, in that I was very immature when I met him. And I thought to myself, if I don't start to behave as more of a mature woman emotionally, then I will lose him. And so I had to change myself to get to the level that he was at, because I wanted to be with him that much. So I think that if a woman is intelligent enough, she can see her flaws and she knows, hey, if I want to keep this guy around, I have to change myself too.
Yeah, totally. You make each other better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go do another question. Let's see. So we did, how can women, so we didn't really answer that. Like, how does a woman signal? I guess her character will signal that she wants these things, but to be like, just plainly answer the question, literally tell him.
Yeah.
Literally tell him. And to be honest, if like some of these things you can work on, definitely, like being mother, like wanting to be mother, like you can work on that. That's not a hard thing to eliminate from your character. But a lot of these things, like, you can't just become smart with money overnight. That's something you really have to work on. You can't just become brave and vigilant and stand up for your loved ones overnight. Like, if that's not in you integrally, that's hard to work on. So for women, if you have your reasonable deal breakers that match your level of worth, and I would not waste time on men that don't meet those standards. I know wonderful women who've wasted up to 10 years on a man who literally didn't meet any of their standards at all.
Yep.
Just because they have that wonderful character trait of being a supportive spouse, which you do want in a woman. But at some point you become an enabler and you destroy your own life by keeping a person around who doesn't deserve you whatsoever. So yes, you can signal for some things by being straightforward and just having expectations set, but you can't change, the man from inside. Like, you can't do that. That's not your job. A man needs to want to do that. So yeah, I just wouldn't waste the time. I know that sounds harsh, but that's my answer to that question. If anyone wants to add anything, or we can move on to another question.
No, I definitely want to add something, because I met this woman that was doing my hair the other day. She was talking about how she's been with this guy for 9 years and he's kicked her out of their house 3 times and she still wants to be with him. And I said, why would you want to waste your time with somebody like that? Somebody who is constantly making you feel not worthy, punishing your self-esteem. This relationship is up and down. But the problem is, a lot of women like drama. And a lot of women get into positions where they stay with a guy too long that has no intentions for them, kind of sees them through, this time where they could be having babies. And they go, well, I've invested so much time in this guy and I can change him. Well, that's just stupid, because you need to look at time as so important. Women need to figure out their shit a lot earlier than guys do, because we're on this biological clock. Right? Even if you don't want kids at 27, you might want them at 35. And if you're with some loser who's just wasting your time, that's a problem. So women need to be straight up right away. If you want kids, if you want to get married, if you want a good man, you got to tell a guy. Like
It's
to
not
me,
just his fault. It's
No,
never just
no,
his fault. You're
no.
with him, aren't you? You're with him. You picked him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have something to add from the perspective of not really dating, and then my husband being the first serious relationship I've ever been in. So because of that, we've had to grow together, and our marriage is something different than it was when it first started. So he's actually said to me before, "You make me become a better person." And I think that's, I would think that about him, but he said that to me, "You make me want to be a better person." And one time I just was asking, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "You don't accept anything less than what you deserve." And most of the time that's in reference to me kind of forcing him to be an authoritative figure, a leader of our family, somebody that I can go to and really trust and feel safe. And I feel safe that he has our family and he's leading our family. So I just find it really interesting that he said, you don't accept anything less than what you deserve. And he must think I deserve a lot because I'm lucky. He's a great leader.
That's really wonderful and heartwarming to hear. And I forgot who said this. Maybe it was Goethe or St. Augustine. But he said that don't treat people as they are, treat them as what they could become. And I think this is very applicable to men. And I think that's a good rule of thumb to end on. Treat the man you're with as the man you want him to be and the man he could become. And he's way more likely to get there. And if after treating him that way for years, he's just not willing, then maybe it's time to move on. Okay. More questions? Okay. What does it mean to be mothered? Can you bring up specific examples? Sure. Like if the guy is slightly hurt or slightly sick and he wants you to treat him like his mommy did when he was a little kid, a little bit too much for me. I think the wife should take care of you and be loving, etc. But it's a difficult thing to explain because you kind of like, it's a vibe. Can anyone elaborate on this? It's just a vibe. Like it's just when they start to expect things from you, like the things they expect from their mom.
I can. There is a difference between taking care of your husband as a wife would take care of your husband and then mothering. So let's paint a picture. Okay. I'm in the kitchen cooking and my kids are running around and they need to be told, okay, don't throw your brother into the wall. That's not cool. And one pot is boiling over. So I'm cooking for my husband and I'm cooking for my family and I'm kind of working hard. I mean, the pot's boiling over, the kids are fighting and one's throwing each other into the wall and husband's working outside. So I'm nurturing my family by cooking for them. I'm nurturing my family by taking my children aside and saying, you can't do that. You can't hurt each other. Apologize or go in separate rooms or something. So I'm disciplining, I'm cooking. Say there's a load of laundry and going. That is nurturing. Bringing your husband a drink when he comes home from work, if that's the thing that he wants, that's nurturing. What wouldn't be nurturing is, say that scene is happening and he comes in and he cut himself on his finger. Say he cut his finger doing some yard work or something. He comes in the kitchen and he says, "I need you to take care of this right now." So you look at him and you can either be like, "That's a cut on your finger. The Band-Aids are in the bathroom. I'm making dinner," or you could, the pot's boiling over and it doesn't matter because your husband needs you to go get a Band-Aid and the Neosporin and doctor him up. That's the difference between nurturing and as a wife and being a mother. He can fix his own boo-boos,
That's a good distinction, Lacey. That's right. Basically, I think that's a good rule. If it's a simple thing that he can do for himself, and he doesn't do it, he like wants you to do it just because it feels nice, because it reminds him of mommy. It's a little weird for me. Some women are into it. For me, like, it's not something I would leave a man over, but it's something I would definitely want him to work on.
I did. I left a man over that. It's yeah. You got to deal with those mommy issues. The wife is not your mommy.
Yeah, mommy issues. That's a whole nother video.
Yeah.
Someone says, if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to be with someone who masturbated. Yeah, no FAP in a marriage. It's really great, actually. Anyways, that's kind of
if you're trying to get pregnant, no FAP for sure.
Oh yeah, you got to store up the sperm count. See, people, this is a lot of the time people get it wrong. Like, let's have sex like every single day. Like, no, your sperm count depletes. Don't do that. You gotta store it up. No FAP, no sex between. Anyways, okay. I can rant about that for a long time. But yeah, I agree. No FAP. Okay, let's go on to, did Philosophy Cat join us yet? She said she was joining up. There she is. Perfect timing. Hey, so we're going to give you the stage, and you need to go over the 3 things that you did not want in a mate. So go ahead. Philosophy Cat has her own YouTube channel. She's great. She's the reason why I brought up the Aphrodite comment earlier. So if anyone had a question about that, post in the chat. And the stage is yours. Go ahead. You're muted, by the way. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I was trying to find it. I wasn't expecting to go on right away. Hello, everybody. So 3 things that I don't want in a man, correct? Okay. I just heard you guys kind of talking about men who want to be mothered. And that is definitely going to be in my top 3. The reason being that it creates a really unhealthy relationship dynamic. And I think once it's established, it's really hard to recover from it, because it's very difficult then for the woman to respect him as a man and not just see him as another kind of overgrown child. And you do see that dynamic a lot in modern relationships. And I think it's, I spoke just a little bit about this in one of my older videos, but it's worth repeating. The Demeter nature that a lot of women have to nurture, I think it's misdirected onto a lot of broken and dysfunctional men. And it's easy to mistake that for romantic love, but that's really not what it is. And it's not going to create a sustainable long-term relationship. And eventually there's going to be resentment there on the part of the woman. And you've still got this man who hasn't been given the space to mature into a man, because you're mothering him and you're stifling him. And maybe that feels comforting to him in the moment, but it's not helping him. And if you do have children with him, you're going to kind of be pulled in 2 different directions. Sometimes you'll even see men who resent their children because it's taking his wife's time away from him. So that's definitely one of my top 3. I would say that a man, he needs to have vision of some kind. He needs to be oriented towards some kind of a vertical path. I would not ever date a man again who played video games or who did not have a direction in his life. I also wouldn't date a man who was a workaholic and who spent too much time at the office thinking that his be-all and end-all of existence is to make money. I don't want a man who falls into the role of being kind of like a beast of burden for the family, because I feel like, a lot of times women don't respect men as people. Sometimes when a relationship gets established and you get focused on the day-to-day needs of all the practical stuff that needs to be done, you lose sight of the fact that the other person has desires and interests of their own, that they're a whole, complete person. And it's easy for that to get lost, especially for the man. So I would like to see a man who has his own sense of personhood, and isn't just getting lost in the profane flow of life. And also, probably the other thing I don't want to see in a man is somebody who has a lot of unhealthy lifestyle habits. I don't want to see somebody who's eating a lot of junk food, or who doesn't exercise, or who just doesn't care about his health. You know, I'm not even that picky about what it is that he's doing for a healthy lifestyle, as long as that's an important thing to him, and he is taking care of himself. Nobody wants to be married to some guy who has a heart attack at 40 because he never looked after his health. You know, that creates a burden on your whole family. So those would probably be my top 3 that just come to mind off the top of my head.
Great. There's definitely overlap. No one's mentioned the taking care of yourself physically, which I think is it's definitely a deal breaker for many people. And unfortunately, that can arise deep into a relationship or a marriage. And that's, I think, when the woman needs to be straightforward and step in and try to encourage a change of behavior.
Can I say something about that health thing?
Go ahead.
When I met my husband, he was that guy that ate burgers and burritos, and he was just a 22-year-old boy who knew nothing about health at all. But the difference between him and the other guys that I dated was that when I told my husband, I studied nutrition in college, and I can tell you a little bit about what you're eating and what the consequences of that will be. Like, I literally had one conversation with him about the food choices he was making, and he just, bam, done. He's like, oh, you're right, moving on. And after that, he made better choices. And it was just, to me, it was so hot that he could hear something reasonable, hear something and be like, oh, that's true, I'm going to change that. And then he never looked back. And it was just like that. Yeah. So I wanted to say that was really hot that he did.
Can you come talk to my husband? Because he really likes McDonald's.
Sometime. Are you in Texas too? No, just kidding.
Man, all you Texas women.
No, I'm not in Texas. I'm in California.
Okay.
Texas women are the best.
I know, I'm jealous. I want to be a Texan.
For
I have
now,
this vision that I'm a Southern woman in my head, but I'm Canadian.
We blow stuff up and we can make a good brisket.
Yes.
Yes, and you have killer hair while you're doing it.
Yes. Moving on from the hair. Okay, thank you, Philosophy Cat. I think that was very well said. And I'm going to get back to a couple of questions. So they're really good. We have a really good audience today. This is really encouraging, actually. So the next question I have here is there any room for men who have been traumatized from abusive past relationships? What of men with other conditions that would inhibit their desirability? Okay, I think they're talking about like people from abused household or mental illness, or men who have really had bad cards dealt to them. Okay, again, personally, because I am very lucky to come from a family that's loving and together, I've always looked for men who also come from a loving family that's together. Obviously, if I met someone who doesn't have that and who's an amazing person that I love, that wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. But in general, people do attract those similar to themselves and from similar backgrounds. It's just the way life works. There's definitely room for them. And there are plenty of women who come from a history of mental illness, a history of abuse. And I know couples like that. I know couples from, anywhere ranging from they both have divorced parents to they both have really abusive parents. And they find each other and they're smart enough to know the issues they have to work through. And because their issues are similar, they support each other and work through them together. Some of the strongest couples I know personally have really awful backgrounds, and it wasn't their fault. And they empower each other to not carry that over to their next generation. So that would be my answer. I don't think someone from a bad background should necessarily be looking someone from like an ideal background to be uplifted by. I think there's a lot of value in growing with someone who understands what you went through.
I don't think you should write anybody off based on their past. I think that is unfair, especially like this issue is pretty close to my heart. I don't want to get into too many details about it just because I don't want to expose any privacy issues. But I can say that I just feel that if people acknowledge what they've been through, they're working on what they've been through, they've spent time in therapy, those sorts of things, they're not in denial. I don't think that that would be a reason to say no to somebody. And, you know, it doesn't feel right. I think it also might depend on the issue at hand, but there's a lot of things that are not the fault of people, that they unfortunately were raised in terrible environments or they were subjected to horrible abuse. None of that is their fault. And I think to, you know, brush somebody aside because of those things that happened to them in their past is not a very kind and accepting person. So I don't think it's a reason to write somebody off. I really don't.
I agree with both of y'all. I have seen in my life people who have struggled with mental illness or addiction or abuse, and they never recover from that. And they sometimes, you know, they choose to never recover from that. So it's a you know, there's this saying around addiction recovery circles. You might not have chosen the addiction or the abuse or the illness or disorder or whatever, but you can choose the recovery from it. So when I have seen people not choose to recover and they keep doing the same thing over and over and over, when I see somebody who has gone through similar things, but they actively choose recovery and they actively choose to live a better life, whether it be addiction, mental illness, abusive past, bad decisions in your past, whatever it is, if they actively choose to do something different and make a change and want to live for the better, that actually shows that they have a character of strength. They have a strength trait to their personality, because it's a really strong thing to do. It's not easy. So I respect that.
It's a really good point, Lacey. And I've said this before in another context, like regarding money. Like if a guy makes an effort to buy you something nice and he actually doesn't have that much money and he saves up and does that, that's actually much more romantic and beautiful and a kind gesture, because it wasn't easy for him. It's the effort that counts. Same with someone who hasn't been granted all the positives in their life, like some people are. If you've struggled through abuse and you came out on top and you're like a huge baller and you've gotten over it or gotten so far past it that you're just like an epic person, even though you had all these horrible things happen to you, that's super attractive because you had to overcome. Okay, let's move on. This question, I have a lot of experience with this question, actually. Julia, is it discouraging for a woman if her man is away for months at a time for a career? Obviously, there's a lot of nuance to this. Some context, a lot of men throughout history would not be around that much. They would have to go elsewhere for work. They would have to be away at war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this kind of cohabiting everyday existence with your husband 24/7 is not necessarily the norm throughout history, the history of mating. Having said that, it's always going to be dependent on what you're looking for and what the trade-offs are, right? So if you have a man who's away a lot on business and he is succeeding and he's it's his passion and he's bringing a lot to the table financially, you have to decide if that money and his success is worth the sacrifice of hardly ever seeing him and him not being a father to your kids on a more frequent basis. You have to decide that. Are you okay with that? What are you looking for? Some women don't want that at all. Some women want someone who works a lower income job, but that is home for dinner every night because they value the father being there in that kind of way. Obviously, everyone wants a good balance of the two, but not every situation allows for that. So I would say it's not that it's not acceptable or is acceptable. It just depends on what your expectation is and what you want. Oh, is that baby, Roslyn?
There's a baby in the chat.
I would say you have to plan it consciously too. If you're going to go like people, there's a great quote from this biology book I read about how love is actually chemicals that are within proximity over time, or the most biological definition of love. The most chemical definition of love is simply proximity over time. That's what elicits love as we understand it. And if your husband has a job that takes him away from the family a lot, you guys have to make a conscious decision to keep, because you're going like this every time you're apart, make a conscious decision to come back and know that what you're doing is very hard. But if you're based around a common vision, that coming back together will be fine. But also know that, if he can't be traveling and with like say his assistant is a girl and he's traveling with her over time, that's not going to work.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not working.
He's not an honorable guy. It's just because over time, he's spending more time with her than with you. It's like your family is the people you spend time with, that you fight the battle of life with. And
it's called proximity.
Yeah. It's
Don't
called
put your man in that proximity.
Yeah. And so I just say plan how you're going to stay together despite the separation.
Well, I can speak from experience. My husband did used to travel. He doesn't travel so much anymore, but he used to travel with his job. And have you all seen Old Yeller? Okay, so I love Old Yeller. I love the movie Old Yeller. And what I really like about it, a lot of things about the movie I love, but when Katie Coates' husband, I can't remember his name, he's off on a cattle drive. So that speaks to what Julia was saying, this is a part of our history. And he comes back, and just the look on her face and how happy he is to be home and how happy she is to have him home. And then he has a dress for her. And it's just this beautiful, embracing moment. And I think of the times where my husband has been traveling, and I thought that I couldn't survive, him being gone, because he's my whole world. But you learn it's kind of a strengthening of character and a growing experience for you both, because I got to learn how to build my first fire actually when he was traveling. So I grew a lot because I had to do some things by myself. And when he comes back, he's got a gift for me, he's got a gift for the kids. We're really excited to see each other, and it's just you really appreciate what you have. So it's not always a bad thing if your husband has to travel. You can get lonely, but you can get through it, and there are some upsides, strengthening yourself and learning how to deal with loneliness and learning to do some things by yourself. And then also that really beautiful moment when he comes back and you both realize how much you mean to each other and how much your family means to each other. That being said, I'm glad he's not traveling as much anymore.
My situation, I'm not good with long distance, and neither is my husband. So we've made a conscious effort to be together, probably more than the average couple. We spend a tremendous amount of time together, but we made that promise to each other. I accepted a job in Ontario that was about 4 hours away from the city of Toronto. And my husband was like, well, I'm going to go with you. And he got a job there too. So these are the efforts that we went to stay together, because we knew that it was that important. We're just those type of people. And I would actually take lifestyle over money personally. Like, I think that it's more important, especially to have my husband. He's an entrepreneur. So to have him be able to be around our son and see him growing up is so much more important to me. It's so much more valuable. And I love that he is there for input and just to see these special moments. I mean, to me, that's way more important to have than a guy making a tremendous amount of money. I mean, it's nice to have a lot of money, but you can certainly make a lot of money as an entrepreneur too. You don't have to necessarily be a 9-to-5 jobber, right?
Yeah, I've done both. We're from different countries, so we actually, I think still even now, if you accumulate all our time being together, we've still spent more time apart than together. And only recently have we been together for this long in one place. And it was tough. And I had a small baby and it was tough. It was very tough emotionally. And I'm actually used to long distance. I've done long distance, I've done long distance before. I'm not one of those people that has that need to be with a man like all the time. But I will say, now that we've spent this huge chunk of time living together in one place without having to go back and forth because of being in different countries legally, I love it. I love it so much. If he has to go away in business, it's tolerable. I have the experience to tolerate it, but I love being with him. And I love that he's around his son every single day. It's so much better. Okay, next question is from Critical Condition, who is taking a little bit of time off, but she's joined us in the chat, which is great to see. So she says, how do you ladies feel about men who don't know how to argue in a productive way? Occasional arguments are unavoidable in love. Men must be able to argue fairly. So I wonder, do you mean argue like as in debate or argue as in when you have a fight?
I'm assuming fight.
I think of probably a fight as well.
Okay, I'll let someone else start.
I can start, I guess. It is critical that both sides, not just men, both the man and the woman know how to argue and communicate effectively. Having fights is normal in a relationship. It can be a healthy thing if it's done maturely and respectfully. When it degenerates into being cruel to each other, in taking your own pain out on the other person to try to make them hurt as much as you're hurting just because you don't feel heard, that's not okay. And over time, poor arguing skills are going to ruin your relationship. So I actually would tell pretty much anybody, even if you're not having problems in your relationship, it is worth it to go to marriage counseling and just learn the skills for communicating better so that when you do have fights, you're not hurting each other. You're not doing that damage to your relationship where every time you have an argument, you're just sort of chipping away at the foundation of trust you have with each other. Because over time, you build up so many hurts that you can't really recover from it anymore. You can no longer trust the other person and feel safe with them. And then it's hard to love and respect them. And what they would teach you in marriage counseling is basically, how to phrase your needs and your wants to the other person in a way that's non-confrontational and doesn't evoke a defensive response from them. And I know a lot of men think that they're the logical ones. And I do think that this belief is actually somewhat limiting to them because it gives them this blind spot. And what I actually see is that men respond with just as much irrational feeling as women do when their egos are attacked. And they can become just as defensive. They can become just as bitchy as women. And I would say that perhaps there's more onus on the men to be that stable grounding force and to not be that way. Maybe it's more acceptable for a woman to be that way because it is something of a feminine nature. And for a man to be that way is, I don't want to say that men don't get any wiggle room here, but it's not a masculine behavior, and they should try to overcome that as much as possible. Because if your female partner, your wife, is struggling in that department, then you need to be able to be the one to set the example. You need to be the one to help her cultivate her masculine side because she can't do that by herself, and she shouldn't have to teach it to you. But just to make the disclaimer for all the men in the chat, both men and women need to learn to argue fairly.
Sorry, can I step in for just 1 second? I have to leave the chat because my baby has to go down for a nap. So
we're wrapping up soon too. So go ahead.
okay, thank you guys. I had a great time.
Thank you for joining
Bye.
us.
Bye.
So I'm actually the one that's had to work on arguing respectively. I'm really good with debates. I never get, emotional and intense in debates when it has to do with facts and logic and politics and philosophy. I love that. I just find it to be fun. And it's usually the other people who are like, oh, are we okay still? Like they get very invested in it. But when it comes to actual emotional arguments and fights within a relationship, that's something I've had to work on personally. And you can work on it. You just have to have a partner who calls you out. So I think it works both ways, right?
I would definitely say what y'all said about, the responsibility does fall on the man and the woman. And I think it's important to know what each individual person needs in a time of high stress or high emotion and you're arguing. If one person needs to walk away and come back with a cool head, then the other person needs to respect that, because the worst thing in the world is to have somebody who wants to, fix it right now and beat something down into the ground, and the other person is just not able to communicate that way. They need to walk away and come back. So the worst thing would be to kind of beat that other person down. Like, no, we're going to figure it out now. You have to be okay with this now. We have to find a solution now. So if you're a person who needs to walk away, whether you're a man or a woman, I would say assert that and allow your spouse to have an opportunity to respect that. And if you're the person who always wants to beat it into the ground and, we're going to figure this out now, I would say, cool off a little bit. Can you guess which one I am? I'm the, we're going to figure this out now kind of person. So I've had to definitely respect that not everything is going to be immediate. You're not always going to find an immediate solution. And I would say respect the way that each other needs to work through the problem.
Okay, ladies, let's quickly list off our 3 things that we don't want a partner, just to end with, and then we'll say goodbye unless someone asks an amazing question in the meantime. So my 3 things that I did not want in a mate were indecisiveness, the inability to stand up for you or himself, and the expectation of being treated like treated by you as though you're his mother. Okay, Lacey, what were yours?
Baby. Mine was lack of ambition, superficialness, and soy boys.
Roslyn? Muted. You're muted.
Oh,
There you go.
Now
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, but it says it's muted. It's not? Is it working now?
Yeah.
Woohoo! Okay. I completely forget what mine was.
I forgot mine too.
Present, not escaping. I want someone who's future oriented. And I forget the other one.
Vision. Both of you, I think, said something about vision and health, taking care of yourself.
Yeah, you asked me while I was still rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. I was just like, whoa, what? Okay. And now I didn't know there was going to be a test later.
Right.
Okay, quickly glancing at the questions. Okay, these are silly. Okay, does it make sense for men to invest time and energy to conquer the mother of the woman for his side? This way he will have two women on his team, his own mother and the mother of his partner, to conquer. I think that's a very huge question that has like a lot of caveats. So I don't think we're going to answer that. That needs a lot of detail, and it's like a very personal thing, I think. But yeah, you generally want the in-laws and your own parents to be on the side of the family. And I think taking sides in general when you're in a union together is really, like, people in your life who take sides against the wife or against the husband, they're not going to be helpful to the relationship overall. I think people forget that when you're married and when you're going towards marriage, you're supposed to act as though you are a single unit. Okay. If anyone has anything else to add it. And otherwise, say goodbye and list off how to contact you. I'm Brave the World. This is my channel, so that's a given. Go ahead.
I'm Philosophicat, and I think you've got my Twitter handle in the description, and I have my own channel, which you can click to through one of my chat things in the live chat, because I forget what my actual Twitter or my actual YouTube address is. My brain's not functioning. Somebody else talk. Oh my God.
I'm Lacey, 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 Lynn. So just YouTube search that. I've got a channel. And my links are in the description of the videos. So Twitter, Instagram, all of that in the description.
Put him down.
Go ahead, Roslyn.
I'm Roslyn. I'm Roslyn Ross at Blogspot, roslynross.blogspot.com, but I'm not really active right now, as you said.
Roslyn, I have your links in the description below.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it for mothers of young children. Very helpful blog. And I'll also, announcement, I have a series coming out with Roslyn of like 5-6 videos. They're short, they're digestible short videos that we did a while back, and releasing them, in the weeks to come. So I hope you guys enjoy those. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. I think that was really fun, and hopefully we have given the men some food for thought. And maybe some dudes can do a live stream on what they would like in a wife for all the women who are still single and struggling in the dating scene. Yeah, I'd watch that even though I'm married. I think that's a good idea. And take care. Bye.
Bye.